Alright, first off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers and highways and byways pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom. This is the brother Aaron from a James Jamaica camp, coming with another quick lesson. And this lesson is gonna be going into, a few articles that a brother sent in the chat, regarding the UN, and these things will lead to three things. Firstly, it will lead to the famine of the word, famine of hearing the words of Yahweh Shem Shai. It will lead to the persecution, of the sincere disciples, or the hopeful elect, persecution of the hopeful elect, Jacob's trouble, and also salvation for the nation of Israel. All right. So let me just start with this precept, and I'll get into those articles. This is Amos 8, verse 11. It says, "Behold, days come, say Yahweh Shem Shai, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor of thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh Shem Shai. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to see the word of Yahweh, and shall not find it." All right. And that is the thing, the days are coming when people are going to seek and want to know, the truth on what's, coming on the earth. All right. Now, the first article I'm going to read is this one. Well, a few excerpts from this article. This is from C4IRSnet. Right, it says the topic here says UN stresses strategic communications to combat disinformation, and in quotation it says what weapon of war. Right, and you can see that it was published or written by Edith M. Lederer, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and it was published on July 13th, 2022. All right, now this is showing the United Nations Security Council votes to hold a meeting Monday, January 31st, 2022. So I think that's the photographer's name right there. And pretty much, as I said, I'm taking excerpts from this article. What is going on? It's telling you about the troubles that the so-called UN peacekeepers are actually, going through, and they're deployed into certain areas or certain countries that, the people are not receiving them well. And they're saying that the reason for this is due to disinformation, things going around about, what the UN is doing in these countries. For example, the fact that you had cholera in Haiti, even in recent time, the Haitians are telling the UN that, despite the chaos in the country, they don't want their help. And, the article mentioned a few other countries. As I said, I'm not going to read it in its entirety, but I'm just going to get a few sections from it. And, hopefully this is edifying. So this first paragraph, it says the UN Security Council said Tuesday that more needs to be done to counter disinformation and misinformation about the UN's 12 peacekeeping operations, which have faced growing attacks, especially on social media. And that's the thing, these men, Esau, Edom, they say that they're peacekeepers. They go in and say that they're providing humanitarian aid, or, however they want to package it. But when they go in these countries, you can pretty much say they help to destabilize. You can say, they take away children, they partake in human trafficking, they do all type of experiments. And, there's always these agendas behind the scene that, no one hears about until you hear about some declassified document or some investigation by some country about this or that, and they come in and say, "Oh, I'm sorry about this, and we didn't know, and people will be held accountable," and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, that when it comes to light, it's usually sent forth through alternative media sources. And of course, you have misinformation out there, you have disinformation out there, but you also have truths that are out there. There are things out there that can be proven that actually took place. And when when the more this is coming out, people aren't really looking at them as as peacekeepers. People are not looking at them as humanitarian aids. They're seeing that there's always some form of agenda, sinister agenda behind it all right. Now it's, let me see if this part is necessary. No, that part is not necessary. You can read the article for yourself. As you can see, it's right here. I'm just getting to the point. It says the council noted with great concern the increasing amount of disinformation and misinformation directed against the United Nations peacekeeping operations, which may negatively impact missions and peacekeepers. And that's the thing, you also have us, the Israelites, that are telling you about the UN agenda, the New World Order, and pertaining to things like the Charagma, right, which is the MOTB, how it's all, a UN charter, how they're in codes with the WEF, right? And especially when it comes down to sustainable development goals, which is a part of the fourth industrial revolution, it's all time that is actually pushed by the UN. All right. So they're saying that, with these type of information going out, as people are catching on to the agenda 2030 and agenda 21, and seeing that, it's being packaged good, but it's pretty much, it's to the detriment of the general populace, so to speak, and this is within all countries, right, worldwide. The universal income, universal basic income, universal ID, all these things, there are sinister plots behind it. And when they have these peacekeepers go in these countries and help to further some of these agendas, they actually get backlash. All right. Now it says that Brazilian Foreign Minister Carlos Franca, whose country holds the council presidency this month and chaired Tuesday meeting, said that strategic communications are essential for a successful peacekeeping operation. Now, what does it mean? It means that they have to find a way to counter the information that is going out. And when they say misinformation and disinformation, yeah, even though you have fake things out there, it's not really that. It's really to combat anything that goes against what they're pushing, as we're going to see in the next article. That's why I'm actually getting excerpts from this one. Right? This says the UN Security General Antonio Guterres, if I'm pronouncing that properly, says told the council that the world in which peacekeepers operate is more hazardous today than any time in recent memory, with geopolitical tensions reverberating locally and conflicts more complex and multi-layered. It says peacekeepers are facing terrorists, criminals, armed groups, and their allies, many with access to powerful modern weapons, and many with a vested interest in perpetuating the chaos in which they thrive. So they're saying that the information is used to perpetuate chaos, and that those who actually put out the information are trying to thrive in this chaos. But look at this paragraph right here. It says, but he added the weapons they wielded are not just guns and explosive. Misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech are increasingly being used as a weapon of war. And that's the thing, especially when they talk about the Hebrew Israelites, they always want to talk about non-violent extremists and hate speech, It says Guterres said a recent survey found that nearly half of all UN peacekeepers feel misinformation and disinformation severely affect their work and threaten their safety and security. It says an example of the false information spread like wildfire. Guterres said a fake letter alleging that the UN peacekeepers in Mali were collaborating with armed groups went viral on a WhatsApp and was picked up by national media. It stirred up hostility and resentment against peacekeepers and made their efforts to protect civilians even harder, he said. Now, as to whether or not this is true or not, I'm unable to confirm. First time I'm actually seeing this, but hey, who to tell? Even if it's not true in this case, I would be surprised if it's true in another case. Just saying. All right. It says Lieutenant General Marcus da Costa, commander of the peacekeeping force in Congo, told the council that it operates in a country where successive surveys find an overall poor perception among the population that the mission's relevance in improving their security. Yeah, you are known to, no one trusts you because you're known to doing a lot of things. All right, a lot of BS. It says anti-mission sentiments prevails in certain parts of the country and even prevents some of our deployments, he said. Unfair speeches by several actors against the mission put in risk the safety of our peacekeepers. The extensive use of social media by armed groups and other spoilers undermine confidence in the UN. And notice that it says other spoilers. All right, so it's not just people with guns and so on and so forth, but they talk about people that help to push the information. All right, it says he said these armed militias use regular information warfare tactics, and their fake news diffusing through messaging and social media is difficult to distinguish from reality, and that is why you have these censorships, and it's targeting things like WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. All these platforms will be censored. All right. It says that these emerging technologies are driving a fundamental change of the character of the war, and peace operations are already being affected. So they take it from a scale of warfare. That's a sentiment that they're putting, that look, this is a threat. All right. It says Gertis said that UN is moving to improve communications in peacekeeping operations between uniformed and civilian personnel, see military and police officers skilled in communicating, and work with tech and media companies and member states to collect and share best practices. And that is the thing. It's pretty much building a task force around communication, because they all want to censor the information that is going out, i.e. the truth. We prophesy against kingdoms, we prophesy against countries, we just classify against peoples, nations, tongues, even of our own, and we expose the agenda. Now, real quickly, this is going a bit longer than I expected, but hopefully, this is edifying nonetheless. There's another article that was published on February 6, 2023. It says the UN Security General declares war on disinformation. We must lock up free thinkers. The title says it all. All right. It says the United Nations has declared war against spreaders of so-called misinformation. Oh, sorry. This was published by, it says fact-checked, whatever that means. Written by Sean Adi Tabai, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It says the United Nations has declared war against spreaders of so-called misinformation and has urged governments worldwide to punish people who spread non-mainstream views. And that is the meat of the matter. Alternative media source, the men of the Lord who are pushing this 100% through the scriptures and are speaking against their agenda, which is not mainstream, they're actually going to attack the truth. And notice what it says, that people must be punished for what they spread. Right? It says on Monday, UN Security General Antonio Guterres, which is the same person from the previous article, addressed the General Assembly in New York and called out misinformation and disinformation as a vehicle for spreading hate online. You already mentioned about them considering us non-violent extremists and domestic terrorists and all of that. Right? It says UN Security General, we call for action from everyone with influence on the spread of mis and disinformation on the internet, as in suppress anyone outside of the government and technocratic organizations who dares to question or scrutinize their ministry of truth. So this is what James Melville posted, which I think he's spot on with what he's saying. He says we'll call for action from everyone to influence on the spread with influence on the spread of misinformation and disinformation on the internet, government regulators, policymakers, technology companies, and the media, civil society, Gertz declared. So they'll tell us what is true. They'll tell us what we if we're not speaking what they're speaking, then we should be punished and held accountable. It says stop the hate, set up strong guardrails, be accountable for a language that causes harm. So right there and then we know where this is going. It says InfoWars report, in other words, the UN is unconcerned with freedom of speech or the free speech protections outlined in the United States Constitution's First Amendment safeguarding a citizen's right to freely speak their mind. But just in general, right? It says the UN's effort will no doubt encourage big tech companies to deplatform and ban users who dissent and question prescribed narratives and silence critics of the UN's New World Order agenda. And I agree. I definitely agree. Based on how the rhetoric is, I totally agree with this. And this actually lines up with prophecy. Right? It says the United Nations Secretary General declare of war on free speech comes at the UN's World Health Organization, as the UN's World Health Organization also released its International Pandemic Treaty, calling on member states to tackle false, misleading, misinformation or disinformation, including thorough promotion, including through promotion of international cooperation. And it's the same thing that they said about the serpent juice and how it was safe and everything, and then all of a sudden there's a lot of these things that are coming out. Oh, it wasn't tested properly, there were known side effects, so on and so forth. But channels were being deleted right, left, and center when it was all coming out. You couldn't mention anything about prayer, healing herbs, anything of that sort. It was considered what they're saying right here. And it's going to be far worse and far bigger because they have deep fake, and they're also going to ensure that they push a narrative between who the Israelites are. And if anyone should speak otherwise, then either the public is going to hate them, or you're going to be in problem with the authority, because guess what? You're moving along, you're moving away from the narrative. All right. Now, this precept right here, right, which is Isaiah 29, and I'll start at verse 18. It says, in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. And that is referring to those who will be be awakened, or those who will be removed from the congregation of the dead. As it says, what? The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. Right? So, once you don't have this truth, you'll be considered as someone who is blind, or someone, and if it's a case that you can understand this truth, up until the point, if the Lord grants you, understanding of the scriptures, then you'll actually be considered deaf. Right? Verse 19, it says, the meek also shall increase their joy in Yahweh Shai, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Yasharallah, right? Which is Israel. And the point is right here, verse 20. It says, for the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed. And that's it. Esau, Edom, and all these major powers, they will be brought to naught. And those who actually, scorn, and those who actually go with the mainstream media and be tied with the devil, they will be consumed. It says, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate. And this, these two articles are showing that there is a snare being laid for us who reprove in the gate, us that push the names of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. All right, let me read verse 21 again. It says, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. All right, and that's definitely coming, the persecution. But guess what? After the persecution, we shall be delivered by Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and those who were persecuting us will be judged. All right, so let's stay prayed up. let's keep our eyes single, and Lord willing, we endure unto the end. So, going to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom.